Welcome to the Meaningful Signs of the Times program. I'm Pastor Steve from the Seventh day Adventist Church in Guthrie Center. As our name suggests, we are very interested in the second coming or advent of Jesus. This program is dedicated to exploring the prophetic events of the last days from a purely biblical perspective. In other words, we're not going to try to fit news headlines into the biblical prophecies, but instead we're going to let the Bible speak for itself in reference to the historical accuracy of the prophecies. And to accomplish this goal, we have been and will continue to explore the major last day books of prophecy, Daniel and Revelation. Our program today is titled The Study of Daniel, Part 8. As we continue in our study of Bible prophecy, you may not always agree with everything that I state, but I encourage you to be like the faithful Bereans, who did not accept everything that Paul spoke at first, but they went to the scriptures to verify what he was saying. I hope that you will follow their example. So if you have any questions about what I'm teaching or would like a transcript of the message, then email me at pastorsteve@netins.net. I will repeat this address at the conclusion of the message. And it might be helpful for you in this series to follow along in your Bible. The Roman influence that will extend throughout history until Christ returns far exceeds the time of the Roman Empire. We know this due to the imagery of the statue in Daniel chapter 2. Also, we have the prophecy in chapter 11 that we are examining. So, as we said before, pay attention to the details of history that is found in these prophecies. We'll begin our study today in Daniel chapter 11, verse 16. But he who comes against him shall do according to his own will, and no one shall stand against him. He shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his power. Rome conquered the Seleucid dynasty and gained a presence in Israel. It should be remembered that the Jews sought alliance with Rome to battle the Greeks, but it wasn't until 63 BC that Rome exerted full control over Israel. Verse 17. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him, and thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not stand with him or be for him. Egypt was given to Pompey to oversee and to be guardian over the young king and queen. Pompey was defeated by Caesar and he became the guardian. But the young king and queen stirred up a great deal of trouble that eventually led to Rome defeating the Egyptian forces with the aid of the Jews, the upright ones. Cleopatra was the woman who first sided with Caesar but later sided with Antony. Cleopatra had an inglorious end to her life. Verses 18 and 19. After this he shall turn his face to the coastlands, and shall take many. But a ruler shall bring the reproach against them to an end, and with the reproach removed he shall turn back on him. And then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall, and not be found. Julius Caesar left Egypt to defeat a force in Syria. Upon returning to Rome, his problems increased. He was designated dictator in perpetuity, which was a slight against the republic. Many people feared that Caesar would dissolve the republic and they would lose control, so they assassinated Caesar. Verse 20. There shall arise in his place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle. Octavius, Caesar's nephew, took over and was granted the title Augustus. He raised taxes, and this was the cause of Joseph and Mary having to travel to Bethlehem. Rome reached the pinnacle of culture and greatness during his reign, but eventually Augustus passed away peacefully at the age of 76. Verses 21 and 22. And in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue. With the force of a flood, they shall be swept away before him and be broken, and also the prince of the covenant. Augustus nominated Tiberius, the son of his wife Livia, by another marriage. Tiberius was a vile person, and he never gained the love and respect of the people. The Senate, however, sought to give him the rule. The vileness of Tiberius was noted in an excerpt from the Encyclopedia Americana. Tyranny, hypocrisy, debauchery, and uninterrupted intoxication. If these traits and practices show a man to be vile, Tiberius exhibited that character to perfection. Due to Tiberius's deficiency, great opposition arose against him, and Caligula was prepared to take possession of the empire. Tiberius suffered an ignoble end by being suffocated by Marco, thus ending his reign. But something important did happen during his reign, and that was the crucifixion of Jesus. We know that John the Baptist started his ministry in the spring of AD 27, meaning then that Jesus was baptized in the fall of AD 27. This date coincides with the end of the 483 years of the 70-week prophecy that we examined previously. It would also place the crucifixion in AD 31 in the middle of the 70th week. History thus confirms the accuracy of the Bible. Having now covered the history associated with the 70-week prophecy concerning Israel, the prophet takes us back to the initiation of the League of Israel with Rome to foreshadow the events leading up to the end of time. Verses 23 and 24. And after the league is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, for he shall come up and become strong with a small number of people. He shall enter peaceably, even into the richest places of the province, and he shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers. He shall disperse among them the plunder, spoil, and riches, and he shall devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. In 161 BC, the Jewish state sent an appeal to Rome to enter into the league with them to help them against the oppressive efforts of the Seleucid dynasty. The terms of the league required each party to come to the assistance of the other if either party was attacked. Rome was not yet a powerful nation, so they used such maneuvers of cunning or deceit to expand their limited influence onto a greater stage. The importance in mentioning this technique is that the Roman influence entity that will rise to great power after the 1844 date will use the same technique to gain its influence to control the world before the return of Christ. Daniel, verses 25 through 27. He shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, and with a great army, and the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. Yes, those who eat of the portion of his delicacy shall destroy him, and his army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. Both these kings' hearts will be bent on evil, and they shall speak lies at the same table, but it shall not prosper, for the end will still be at the appointed time. These verses describe the great battle between Rome to support the Egyptian people. Antony was defeated when he should have won, and part of the reason was the defection of his troops to Augustus. Both Antony and Cleopatra perished as a result of their defeat. Augustus and Antony were allied together at one time, but Antony's love for Cleopatra caused him to divorce Octavia, the sister of Augustus, which caused problems between the two men. The significance for these verses is the fact that many of the opposing troops against Augustus then deserted Antony to join Augustus. Much in the same manner, the final Roman-influenced entity will cause opposing factions to desert their causes to join in league with this future Roman-influenced entity. Verse 28. While returning to his land with great riches, his heart shall be moved against the Holy Covenant, so he shall do damage and return to his own land. The first part of the verse refers to the return to Rome after the defeat of Egypt, of which they plundered great riches. The next part, referring to his heart shall be moved against the Holy Covenant, refers to the time of the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. The Jews had revolted against the Roman authority, so Rome crushed them by destroying the city and the temple. They also caused many Jews to leave the Holy Land. All of this destruction was the result of the Jews failing to pass the 70-week period of their probation. They not only crucified Jesus, but they persecuted his followers. We are now leaving the time frame of the history of Israel, and we will be looking at the Roman affairs as it relates to the Gentile world. The historical perspective is important to keep in mind as we apply future meaning to these past events. We're not just applying current events to interpret the symbolism of these verses, but we're applying the historical background that will give us a better understanding of current events and will be more beneficial to the believer. Verse 29. At the appointed time he shall return and go toward the south, but it shall not be like the former or the latter. We're now advancing through the years to AD 330, when Rome was again thinking of exploits. But the empire had been weakened by the division of the empire into the Western and Eastern empires. The Eastern Empire was richer and stronger, which helped it last longer than the Western Empire, which fell in AD 476. It was from this time forward that the barbarians were increasingly effective in defeating the Roman troops. Verse 30. For ships from Cyprus shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return in rage against the holy covenant and do damage. So he shall return and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. There are three main points to this reference, with the first being the ships of Cyprus, or as some translations say, Shittim. These were the maritime people of the eastern Mediterranean, which inflicted damage on the provinces and even sacked Rome itself, which refers to the grieving portion of the verse. All of this was happening close to the fall of the Western Empire in AD 476. The third part of the verse is the most important for our sake. It is important to understand that the Holy Covenant was the Abrahamic or Hebraic covenant that God made with Abraham. This covenant was not the religion of Judaism, which became a man-made interpretation of the Holy Scriptures, but was the faith that Abraham showed toward God, where Abraham believed God and it was counted to him as righteousness, Romans 4:3. In other words, the true covenant was the faithfulness of the Holy Scriptures and not to man-made interpretations of the Scriptures. Since the Jews had already been mainly dispersed from the Holy Land, the meaning of this verse must apply to believers in the Holy Scriptures, which represented the true church. But there were Roman influences that were attacking the Holy Scriptures by the entity that was forming to replace the pagan Roman Empire. The Bible, with both the Old and New Testaments, was concerned by this emerging force as being dangerous and to be avoided by the common man. The three horns that were overcome by the fourth beast were the Heruli, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals, which held to the original scriptures. They were a threat to the newly influencing force, so that they were conquered and destroyed, which set a pattern of behavior of this emerging force, which would oppose true believers throughout the years. We shall explore the future implication of this emerging force in the next message, and we shall discover its role in human history. It should be emphasized at this point that the king of the north had been transferred from the Seleucid dynasty to the Roman Empire centered in Rome, which represented a combination of religion with political power. The king of the south had been transferred from the Ptolemy dynasty in Egypt to the general reference of worldliness and secular thought, atheism, communism, humanism, elevating human activity above the spiritual activity of the Bible. And while this configuration of the new king of the north and the new king of the south were enemies on the surface, for they represent opposing philosophies, they nevertheless have a common goal, and that's to destroy the true believers of the Bible. This is the battle that stems from that time onto the events of our world today. Let me pray for you. Father, open our eyes so that we may see the great battle that is being fought for the souls of humanity. These battles come from the distant past, but are prevalent in our world today, and many people are being deceived by these attacks. Help us to hold fast to your truth so that we may stand strong in the face of these attacks. Amen. You may find out more information about our church and our beliefs on our website, which is GuthrieCenterSDA.com, where you can contact me with your questions about the message or your faith walk. You can also reach me at PastorSteve@netins.net. That's PastorSteve@netins.net. And view our Facebook page at Guthrie Center SDA Church. We're also posting these messages on our church's YouTube page in case you missed any messages. Just simply go to the bottom of our website and you will see the YouTube icon. Just click on that and that'll take you to the messages. We look forward to being with you next time.